Just a short intro first for myself a little bit. As we discussed, there is a bit of a misunderstanding on my part, or I could have said things differently, but my name is Arto Sinkkonen. I'm also from National Land Survey of Finland, and I'm currently as a product owner for Oskari. And I'm working with Sami quite a bit. And so I have been there working on these matters for the past few years. And this is about, so I'm going to talk about first a little bit about, so what is this Suomi.fi? Suomi means Finland in English. But Suomi.fi is not really a domain name. Sami said in the beginning that there isn't really a product, and my talk certainly isn't a sales pitch, but this is kind of a service or a product name, if you will. So you think of it as a noun, not as a domain name. So Suomi.fi is a particular service, which I'm going to talk about. And Oskari has been used to implement it, and it has a rather wide user base in Finland. It's the Finnish administration. And after that, I'm going to go not into deep details about each part of the service, but rather than laterally go through the different parts and how they work. And I don't have live demonstrations, but I will show you some of the things along the way. And in the end, if you have questions, and then I also present a small blueprint on how to build a service and run it based on open software, and what other things than the code base you need to think about with regard to the open data and different open services. But okay, so let's start. So why these Suomi.fi maps? So the origins are actually in the 2015-2016, when the Finnish government felt that digitalization has to move forward, and to do that, the public administrative functions in different organizations, cities, counties, even private organizations that have been given a mandate to take care of some public functions, they needed to be provided with a service that enables them to work more effectively. So, and in particular, it means the apps that have maps and geolocation based, so that let's say that if there is a small county or if there is a huge city that they want to provide the users with map aware or geolocation aware applications, the traditional way was to hire a team and make bidding rounds, but this needed to be simplified. And apps, you will see later, the apps will vary rather quite a bit in complexity, but even simple apps are good. And this is for a Finnish public administration. It's not the end results. I'm going to talk a little bit about these published maps or embedded maps that are the vehicle to realize this. The end users can be all Finnish citizens or all citizens in Finland. But when this is to be done, you want to have a rather low learning curve to begin with. You can't do complicated things usually with and say that the low learning curve, but most of the time what end users want to do, or even the public administrators want to do, is things that they don't need to go into courses and spend weeks or months. And when we talk about public administration in general, but even today, everybody is interested in low operational costs, whether it's the initial and especially the operational, the running costs when you are running the service. And then there are also legal requirements. The initial thing for this was that there is a legal requirement. The laws were passed and made to require certain of these things. So this was the requirement, and the Oskari platform was elected to be at the heart of this the platform on top of which to build things. So there is what's called divided responsibility of organizations, and this means that it's not just that you make an app on the web and you put it on the web page and then everybody gets to it. There is a finer granularity. You can say that, okay, this can be seen only by this group of people, this is open, public, and anything in between. So this is clearly something that it needs to be. It has a low learning curve. It is made for the end user, and it is rather easy to get to begin with. Costs are low. Now, anybody, including me, saying costs are low, there should be a caveat emptor warning next to it, because there are always costs. But perhaps with Oskari, like with many open free software, the costs you can concentrate on acquiring know-how and building systems instead of the other costs that are there. You should, and Oskari does this, support open data and open standards. So not just the open software, but the data and the standards. And we will see that this is perhaps even more important perhaps than the software itself. And so Oskari is of course 4G, and it already existed. So it was not that we need to invent totally new something. So all this helped, and decision was made to build this Suomi.fi. And what it's today, it's a centralized service. It's not in the cloud. It could be, but it's not. It's centralized service, and the administration is centralized. So all the 348 counties or cities in Finland and all the public administrators around the country don't need to have their own administrators. They just start to run it from there as if it were in the cloud. Applications vary in complexity, and I believe we will have Timo's presentation after this one, where he will delve into the complexities. Oskari is based on the open standards and data. Access restrictions, as mentioned, can be used. Now, Suomi.fi requires all the user organizations and to have a signed agreement. But otherwise, the use is free and unlimited. There will be a few other reasons for the agreements also. I'll get back to that later. And as the time has progressed, Oskari also has grown alongside. So not all the things were done and ready when this was started, but many things are done and ready now. So, in my opinion, one of the key things is that when you have a system that encompasses, in this case, the whole country of Finland, which is about 5 million people, as a potential users, and some of them as more advanced users, there is a division of responsibility and access rights. So when we talk about Oskari, usually we talk about the map view and what you can do with it. You can publish maps, and so in this presentation I call this the regular user. So this means that every public organization has somebody using Oskari in this way. But majority of the Oskari users are actually using the embedded maps on the organization's web pages, or they can be even services on their own, but at the heart of it they are still embedded map published from Oskari instance. Administration is given to these users as a service. They are not admins in that sense. They are admins of their published maps and their contents. They can even bring new content providers to provide new map layers or other content to be used in the maps, but there are certain terms that these third-party providers have to agree to. One of them, which is that they have to agree that the data that they provide through their services and their interfaces, those are available to other users in this Suomi.fi service, as agreed, but they cannot log in only to a particular user group. And that's about the open data, that you actually make sure that if you have open data, it also stays open. So regular users, they do what they publish, they build these embedded maps, and they have few tools. They have the already existing map layers and the data that can be used. They can have their own data. There are certain, they can bring their own data in terms of importing the data, or they can just draw things on the map and use those. And after that, they also have, and this is what's done with this Oskari publisher. And there's also the RPC API, which there is a whole presentation about after this one, so I'm not going there. So how does it look to the regular user? So this is the Oskari view. I have opened the map layer section because this is actually, for the regular user, this is the important thing, because here they can see what sort of contents are available. Now, when you talk about public administration, they may not be interested in always the same things as the end users might think of, but good examples are zoning information. Where are the groundwaters in the area? You are building a private home, you want to know if your house is going to stand on top of a groundwater source, or are you outside of it? It could be that. It could be like that you are going to Lapland and you want to know where there would be a good fishing or hiking route or something like that, so it depends. And the public administration side is providing this. And this is the traditional or the regular Oskari view. You got functions, you got data available, and it's then up to you to read the manual and do the trying and do the things. The end user is not using that. The end user is using the embedded map, and in simple ways, the regular user that creates the embedded map is only using the available information, bringing maybe her own or his own data into it, and then publishes the map and puts it on their website somewhere. A very simple example, and I'm sorry if you think it's too simple. This happens to be the Center for Finnish and Swedish Language in Finland, and on their website, this is how they provide the information about where they are located. So it's simple, we are here map, but it's done with Oskari and with the Suomi.fi service. So the own data is actually this single blue dot there on the map, and the rest of it comes from the published map. Then you may have a little bit different thing. Here we have 3 different types of objects. We have these blue balls with numbers. That means that at this zooming level there are actually 3 different things. You may have a dental clinic, maternity clinic, and something else in the same place, but these are 3 different objects, or 5. Then there are the black markers. These are the lower one there in the middle. That's where you can wash your mats. It's an outside thing. And the blue ones are typically different types of buildings and recreational areas. So this is actually taken from one county's webpage. And you can see the surrounding webpage there, but it has much more data in it. And you have a little bit more functionality of the embedded map in it. Then, as your appetite grows or your needs are more complex, you got the available data, you got your own data. Now you want to bring in some new interfaces there in the map publishing, and you maybe use the RPC API. So then you can make this kind of you have a search function. This is done with embedded map also. Search function, and you have search result on the map, and there is even information and links from those search results. So we are still talking about embedded maps. Maybe you have some information. This is about radon content concentration in Finland in different areas. You could have your own sources and have similar type of thing. And it's still embedded map taken from a client's website. So the blueprint. You need the map and special data, platform and open data. You need to promote the publication and use of open data, which means that in those defined policies and agreements, you also make sure that when the data sources are brought in, they also agree to keep it open for everybody. So you have centralized administration, so that not everybody needs to worry about that. There are also a whole bunch of other free software packages, and then there's the legislation. So what are the laws saying about it, and then you have this figuring out the costs. So this is the one way which has been done in the Suomi.fi, that bringing down the costs. So in summary, I showed some of the ways embedded maps and Suomi.fi is used and how it's built. There are example applications and some of the key factors, and this actually was my blueprint, what type of things you need to know, take care of. So there are policies, agreements, all sorts of things. And but when you do those, you still have all the software issues and others to solve, but these are also important because these enable your service to continue. And this is what has enabled Suomi.fi to continue up until this day. I'm running out of time. If you have questions, I will answer them gladly, or if you want to return to some of the issues there. Otherwise, it's thank you. I have same 3 links that previous talk. There is also the link to about Suomi.fi-maps, but all the information is in Finnish. And this is another thing. All this information that I was telling here, it's only about the public sites that can be shown. There is a whole host of sites and functions which are not available to the general public, and this I cannot talk about. And that may be part of the. I'm not aware if there have been any English-speaking presentations about this subject ever. So this is the first time. So you have heard something new. Maybe, I don't know if it has a meaning, but
yeah, that's
yeah. Thanks.